Hi, I'm Femi OK. You're watching The Stream. On today's episode, a close look at how Myanmar's military government is handling the COVID-19 pandemic and dissent. I know you'll have questions. You may well have experiences you want to share as well. If you're on YouTube, you can get those thoughts, those questions to me very easily right here in the comment section, and I will do my best to wrap your thoughts into today's show. Let's meet your guests. We have Wayne In. We have Min and Mu Zhao U. It's so good to see all three of you. Wayne In, welcome back to The Stream. Remind our audience who you are and what you do.
My name is Wayne In and I'm a Senior Advocacy Officer at Burma Campaign UK. I have been a human rights activist working on Burma for over 12 years now.
Thank you for returning to The Stream. Min, welcome to The Stream. Tell our audience who you are and what you do.
Hello, my name is Min Bo, and I'm independent consultant focused on democracy, human rights, and originally from Myanmar, but currently based in London.
Good to have you. Mu Zhao U, thank you for joining The Stream. Introduce yourself to our global audience, please.
My name is Mu Zhao U. I'm Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs of the National Unity Government of Myanmar. Very nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Good to have you, guests. I'm going to start with volunteers who are working on the front lines of COVID in Myanmar. To remind our audience that back in February, there was a military coup. There were huge protests. People were on the street protesting. And then there was a huge clampdown. And then protesting became very dangerous. All while there was a COVID-19 pandemic. Volunteers from a few days ago. Let me just share their experiences with you. Have a look, have a listen.
There are not enough volunteers to carry dead bodies. We are running our service without resting. Today, we have already sent 40 dead bodies to crematoriums.
We wanted to save human lives, and we don't want to see people in this situation. We used to send patients to hospitals and would ask them, which hospital do you want to go to? Now it's different. When we receive incoming calls now, we ask, which cemetery will you go to?
All our guests have family in Myanmar right now. Wayne In, first of all, for you, your perspective on what is happening with the COVID-19 pandemic in Myanmar today.
I would say it's a very heartbreaking and devastating situation for us because we were already going through the coup with, ongoing human rights violations every day since February the 1st. And now the COVID crisis started, and every day we hear news about relatives and family members dying or friends dying, and there are more than 5,400 political detainees in prison, and we are very worried for their health because there is also an outbreak of COVID cases in prison, and of course the military has no desire to manage this outbreak at all, and it's really a traumatic moment for all of us.
What evidence have you seen, Min, that the military is exasperating the situation rather than trying to alleviate it? Min, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, there are three things I would like to add what Wayne In said. First of all, COVID means people can protest for health reasons, and second, junta is weaponizing the health crisis to target doctors and activists and impose more restrictions. And also, it's also another a fabulous way to prevent international accountability, because due to travel restrictions, there's very limited access from international organizations and government to actually witness what is going on the ground.
I'm just looking here at my laptop, Mu Zhao U. Myanmar shadow government forms COVID-19 task force. Tell me a little bit more about that and what is possible as a shadow government. You're not even in power right now. What are you able to do?
Our government is trying to help the people inside the country using all of our networks, possible networks and possible means. So we try to reach out the people through some channels, even online channels as well. And we are trying to cooperate with the ethnic health organizations, which are also trying to work on the healthcare and educational programs. So that's why we trying to form a committee called the COVID-19 Task Force and work together to deal with all these problems in their ethnic area.
I'm trying to understand the extent of the COVID-19 pandemic in Myanmar, and it's difficult for me to get my head around because then we're looking to a military government to get those accurate figures from them, and even countries that have a democratic government are having trouble getting figures. But this is the government leader, the military government leader, speaking about trying to get vaccines. Have a listen, have a look.
I requested that we buy vaccines from Russia when I met with their defense minister and chief secretary. They have taken attention and given us a commitment to provide the 2 million doses I requested. Russia has no capacity to produce all the vaccine doses at once because they provide to many countries worldwide. They said some vaccine doses will arrive this month. It would be more than 10,000 for us.
10,000 doses in a country of approximately 53 million people. It sounded like it was a problem about access to vaccines. But there's so much more going on than that.
I mean, you know, a lot of arguments, or some people say that the military doesn't have the capacity to deal with this COVID outbreak. But in reality, we have seen, for example, they arrested the head of the vaccination program under the NLD government, Dr. Tata Lin, and she's now in prison and now tested positive for COVID. And they also arrested her husband and son, which, you know, they are now released. But it shows there are, you know, repeated patterns showing from the military that they have no desire to deal with it. And as Gomin said, you know, they are using COVID outbreak as a weapon against the civilians in the country. And I'm sure other panelists can share more of their insights on this as well.
I am going to go first to Mani, who is a Human Rights Watch researcher, and she really focuses in on this idea of using COVID-19 as a weapon. Have a listen, have a look. And then Min, please respond immediately off the back of this video. Thank you.
So overall, the human rights situation in Myanmar is really deteriorating. We've got thousands of people who've been arbitrarily detained and over 900 people who've been killed since the coup. Of those, I think 65 have been sentenced to death, but the response to that has been really muted, mainly because of the overall devastation that the COVID situation is creating right now. And of course, the lack of access to healthcare that people have, because medical professionals are being targeted by the junta. Something like 600 medical workers are trying to evade arrest, and they have arrest warrants out for them.
Yeah, it was recently, I think last week in the news, the security forces, they pose as COVID patients, and they have contacted the military doctors and the volunteers to come deliver they need help. So the doctors and the medical doctors went there, and then they arrested them. So that is just one example how the military is weaponizing the health crisis to crack down on activists, military doctors, and other military personnel participating in the CDM movement.
Muzau, the United Nations have called for a COVID ceasefire in Myanmar. Can you explain to us how serious the situation is for the general population?
The situation inside the country is very, very serious, because I would say 1 out of 2 people tested for the COVID-19 could be positive. So positivity rate is very high, and the death toll is also very high in the country. Now in Yangon alone, more than 1,000 dead bodies have been created in the criterium. So the situation is very, very serious. And I would like to point out another fact, that's that in the prison, as far as I heard the news from the prisons, almost all of the prisoners in the prisons have been infected with the COVID-19, so which is also very serious. So we are very much worried about the situation inside the prison. That we would like to urge all the political prisoners should be released immediately.
I'm just going to show our audience this. Insein prison strike launched this morning. We can hear and feel the powerful and conquering dedication of our people locked up in the notorious Insein prison. Let me just play this for you. You're about to hear that. Prisoners from inside the prison. This is how loud they are. And Min, can you help us remind our audience who a lot of the prisoners are in Insein prison? These are protesters that we saw in February and March, correct?
Yeah, these are the protesters, student activists, human rights offenders, medical doctors, any protester we've seen on the street. And then, yes, they're putting in, not only in Insein prison, but also in other states and regions as well, in respective prisons.
Just looking here again on my laptop, Myanmar junta frees political prisoners and journalists. Not all of them, not all the journalists, not all of the political prisoners. Can you explain to us, Wayne, what is happening in terms of the military government now, just consolidating their power?
Well, I wouldn't call it a military government because it's still a military coup. And after 6 months, they still haven't been able to consolidate the power. Although with the COVID crisis and ongoing arrests and killing of the civilians, the protests continue in different parts of the country. People are still coming out protesting. I mean, even people inside Insein prison, although they are being imprisoned, they are protesting against the military. Because we all know the countrywide, we know that military is the root cause for all the problems and atrocities we have in the country. Of course, COVID is a disaster itself, but the military made it way worse by not managing it, and also keep arresting people and keep displacing ethnic minorities in ethnic areas, and keep committing human rights violations across the country. So I would say the military. It's not a military government because we have the shadow government, we have the national unity government, and we have, people who are still resisting this military coup, which started from February the 1st.
Mm-hmm. The military have dubbed themselves the State Administration Council. Min, go ahead.
I would like to say, to support what William said. So that is true. We're almost 6 months in after the coup, and then the country is in total chaos. Economy shut down, completely shattered. Thousands of people have been arrested, and then many people lost their souls. And then right now the third wave of COVID. And then what are they doing? Like there is not one thing that we can say that they can run the government. So like I said, I don't even want to use the word military government. It's a military junta. I don't even even in Burmese, I don't use the word, for example, like Sit Anashin. Just I use Sit Soya. Sorry, it's not Sit Anashin, not Sit Soya. Yes.
I would like to point out one thing that is very important, because to address the pandemic like this, the most important thing is the trust between the government and the people. So there is no government at all, like Whitney said, and then there is no trust between the people and the military council. So it would be very difficult to address that kind of pandemic in this time.
I don't want to pile on the list of challenges that are happening for the people in Myanmar, but another one is about how many people are being displaced right now because of the ongoing conflict between the military junta, the State Administration Council, however you want to describe who is currently in power right now in Myanmar, and protesters who want to return to some form of democracy. So these displaced people, Muzau, help us understand where they are. How are you able to help them as a shadow government?
As far as I know, it is estimated that more than 300,000 people have been displaced because of some armed conflicts happening across the country. So they are from the Gaya state, from Kachin state, from Chin state, and even in Shan states. So there are a lot of displaced people in different parts of the countries. So now we are trying to reach out to these people through our different networks and provide some assistance because the situation, the humanitarian situations of these people are very worrying. So they have to live inside the forest, hiding without any food, any medical care. They dare not go back to their home because they are afraid of being punished or retaliated by the military security forces. So they are staying inside the country. So the situation is very worrying.
I'm just looking here on YouTube. Thank you, people on YouTube, for being part of this program. There's a question about the Rohingya and what is their situation now. And also, I want to bring in another thought from a video comment that we have. And we just lined it up just now so that you can hear from the representative of the Rohingya in the United Kingdom. Have a listen, have a look.
Regarding on NUG policy paper, I believe it is positive step forward, but much more clarifications needed from National Unity Government of Myanmar. One thing that, I would like to mention here, Rohingya were recognized as an ethnic group of Burma before 1962 military coup power. After 1962 military coup power, Rohingya ethnic rights were taken away. And so now NUG should clarify that Rohingya will have the same rights like other ethnic groups of Burma.
NUG is the National Unity Government, the shadow government that is working remotely right now because of the coup. Mike wanted to know, Musa'u, about the perspective for a better future, the prospects for a better future for the Rohingya. Will their situation improve?
Like Otonkin said, we released a statement on 3rd June, the policy statement on the Rohingya people. So before we launched that statement, we tried to reach out to the community leaders of the Rohingya people, including Otonkin, and try to explain our statement. So most of the community leaders of the Rohingya people welcomed our statement and accepted our statement. But not all of the policies that we laid down. So there are some criticism in the policy statement. But I would like to say that what we are going to do is to establish a federal democratic union and to bring democracy back to our country. So together we will be able to solve all of these problems together. So first of all, we need to be empowered, to be frank with you. So please help us. Please help bring democracy back to our country. Then we will be able to establish a federal democratic union in which all the ethnic groups enjoy equal rights together.
What you're doing is you're making an appeal to the international community, and I'm wondering, is the international community listening and acting? Have a listen, have a look at this video comment.
So what we see right now in Myanmar with the reintroduction of death sentences, the reimposition of martial law, the brutal repression and the weaponization of the pandemic is a combination of lethal injustice, lethal violence, and lethal neglect. Tragically, this is nothing new in Myanmar. The military, they kill, they allow people to die, they torture because they can't tolerate dissent, they can't tolerate disobedience, they can't tolerate criticism, and they want power. Obviously, the international community needs to keep its attention on Myanmar, but this is not enough. I think regional and international diplomacy need a serious reboot. We simply can't allow torture and killing to become normalized.
Deputy Foreign Minister, how hopeful are you that when you appeal for assistance, is anyone listening?
So we have called for the international community to make urgent and effective intervention based on humanitarian ground, because the situation inside our country is very serious. So now I think the international community should consider about the situations very seriously, because the Myanmar can become a country that spread the new variant of COVID-19 to the region and wider international community as well. So it is not an internal affair anymore. So international community should consider about that very seriously.
Min, you are sitting in a conversation with the Deputy Foreign Minister of the National Unity Government, a shadow government. What is the question that you feel is the most pressing one you should be asking right now of him?
I would like to, actually, I don't really have a question to the Deputy Minister. My question is more to the international community and international government, international agencies. So as the pandemic was going deeper and then having more deaths on a daily basis. Last week, it was some ASEAN embassies in Myanmar, and also including some international Western embassies. They closed their visa sections doors until further notice. So at the same time, it is more about welcoming, people around the world, and then everything, refugees, and then so on. But to me, that is the only way that basically closing doors for Burmese people and citizens who was trying to leave legally, either as a student or to other countries, but using COVID as a closed door. To me, I think that is it's not what I have seen that people should do. It's international community should do. So it's just a small example that came to my mind last week when I saw that news.
Wayne, in the international community, are you still hopeful that they can be pushed, encouraged, cajoled into helping the people of Myanmar?
I am still trying to hold on to hope because there are still so many things that international community can be doing, but the problem is they are not doing anything at all. And even with the, humanitarian crisis, they should be finding a cross-border mechanism through ethnic areas to support internally displaced people, through, using local civil society groups, but they are not doing any of that. And when it comes to accountability measure, when it comes to stronger sanctions on oil and gas revenue, which is one of the biggest revenue income for the military, they could be putting sanctions on it. But, there are so many measures that international community can be taking. But the problem is they're not doing any of that. Of course, we keep getting statements of, we are concerned or we are monitoring the situation, but we are way over that point now.
Yeah, condemnations and everything. It's just the international, like for example, MOGE. It's basically supported by the French, Total since 1992, since the military juntas all day since the time that we grew up. And then just finally right now they have sanctioned a part of that project of many projects. And then it is so all these statements, condemnation. Yes, as I'm not representing on behalf of anyone, but as a Myanmar citizen, I'm a bit tired of it.
If you could phrase a sentence that you feel might actually provoke some action, what would that sentence be, Wayne?
Well, people in Burma are risking their lives. They are actually giving up their lives for freedom and democracy. And international community, they don't even need to risk their lives to help people in Burma, and they should be doing that. They don't need to risk their life. All they need to do is take effective action against this military who've been committing atrocities for many, many decades, and they should start doing that.
Yes.
Deputy Foreign Minister, what would be your sentence to provoke the international community? You have a platform right now. Your sentence would be what?
There should be urgent and effective international intervention based on humanitarian grounds because the situation in our country is very serious now. So please consider about it seriously.
Mu Zhao U is the Deputy Foreign Minister of the National Unity Shadow Government. Thank you for joining us, Min, Wayne In. Really appreciate your take, your perspectives and your insight on what is happening in Myanmar right now. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time. Take care.